DJ Wagner is the third former Kentucky Wildcat to follow Coach Cal to Arkansas, and here's the deal. The Hogs are going to need him to be better than he was last year in Lexington.
You are Locked On College Basketball, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? Happy Monday to you. Welcome into the Locked On College Basketball Podcast, the only daily national college hoop show out there. I'm your host today, Ivisic Shade, and you're joining us at the place to get your college basketball content every single day. I want to thank you for making us your first listen or watch and remind you that you can get every episode ad-free on Amazon Music. Shout out to all you everydayers out there, as well as all the members of the Locked On College Basketball Discord community. So glad that all of you are here. You may notice I'm flying solo today. Usually my co-host Andy Patton and I are together on Mondays. He's out on a Memorial Day trip with his family, and so yours truly flying solo. Gonna have a lot of fun. Andy will be back. We haven't decided if we're gonna do Tuesday's show together or get to Wednesday, but he'll be back, and hopefully he and his bride and recent new baby are having a great weekend together. A couple things. Reminder that coming up Wednesday, 2 days from now, is the early entry withdrawal deadline. Players have to be out of the NBA draft by 11:59 p.m. Eastern time if they want to come back to college next season. Today's show is SEC heavy with the little Gonzaga interloper at the end. DJ Wagner headed to Fayetteville. Tennessee grabs last year's most efficient scorer, at least per synergy. And then at the end, instead of a six-pack, since it's just me, we're going to have a three-pack. More SEC news plus some Gonzaga stuff, as I said. Also, for those of you watching on YouTube, you notice I'm wearing one of my Braves pullovers. I don't know if I've ever talked about it on the show. I grew up in Atlanta, massive Braves fan, and this is in solidarity of my guy Ronald Acuna Jr., who unfortunately tore his ACL in his left leg on Sunday, like first inning. Miserable, awful, and really disappointing. So anyway, supporting my Braves today. All right, first, let's head to Fayetteville, Arkansas, like apparently everyone else from Lexington, Kentucky is doing, where DJ Wagner, as expected, if we're being honest, did announce over the weekend, and all the reports and sources came out on Sunday, that he is the third Wildcat to head to Fayetteville. Plus, let's not forget, there's 3 incoming freshmen that were going to be at Kentucky as well. So really 6 players have come with Coach Cal in total to be Arkansas Razorbacks. So right now, he's got 8 guys on his roster. 6 of them are former or were going to be Wildcats this year. 5 transfers. The 3 Kentucky guys are DJ Wagner, Zvonimir Ivisic, and Adou Thiero. Plus you add in FAU's John L. Davis and Tennessee's Jonas Adou. And then those 3 freshmen are Boogie Fland, Karter Knox, and Billy Richmond. So that's where things are at right now for Arkansas. And it's kind of funny because it feels like, man, Cal's been loading up for a while now, getting guys and getting big names. But he's still only got 8 guys on scholarship right now. And I don't mean that as a slight. I mean it as so he's still got 5 open scholarships he can utilize however he wants to. Well, so we need to think some about that. We need to talk about DJ Wagner. With Wagner, I mentioned right off the top, let's remember that there was a time when he was looked at as, the player in the class of 2023. He came in last year to Kentucky, and it just, there were flashes, there were glimpses, but he was not the guy that so many thought about for so long. It was Rob Dillingham. It was Reed Shepherd, who nobody really expected to be what he was, maybe outside of the Shepherd household, right? But those were the freshmen that really blew up last year. And so Bradshaw, or excuse me, not Aaron Bradshaw. I was thinking about Aaron Bradshaw. Wagner, in coming to Arkansas, needs to find what he had that showed that he was that elite top-level guy. I expect him to be a hound on defense, or I guess I should say a hog on defense. Like, that's going to be there. What I would like to see more from him is really an expanding offensive game. And let's be honest, most of the time, the biggest leap you see is from freshman to sophomore year. So I expect that out of DJ Wagner this year. Very well. And we're going to talk lineup stuff here in a minute, but I would like to see him really, really grow his point guard skills. That's kind of lacking in the Arkansas locker room right now. They need that, and DJ Wagner could be the guy to provide it. I don't love it in terms of thinking about him maybe as their starting point guard, but that's something that he's going to need to grow. So we'll keep our eyes on that and what DJ Wagner does. But I mean, it's clear that there's something, whether it's Coach Cal's recruiting or whatever it is, that makes these guys want to come along with him, right? Like it seemed for a while like Adou Thiero was like off the Coach Cal train. Like he was in the portal before it was announced that Coach Cal was leaving Kentucky. And for the longest time, I thought Thiero would go basically anywhere else but Arkansas. And here he is, a Razorback. So there's something going on there. That's good. So in terms of what does Coach Cal and his staff do with these 5 remaining scholarships? Well, first off, nobody's using all 13 at the high major level. It's just not the reality that we live in right now. So I expect Coach Cal, who even joked about only using 8 or 9 or whatever it was, I expect him to use probably 3 more to get up to 11 scholarship players. So let's look at things positionally right now. At point guard, I honestly don't really have anybody that I'm like, hey, that's your guy. That's a true point guard. I would slot DJ Wagner in as a point guard if we're just looking at things positionally. Again, I don't love it. Shooting guard, both John L. Davis and Boogie Fland. Small forward, Adou Thiero is listed as a small forward, and as are 2 of the 3 incoming freshmen, both Karter Knox and Billy Richmond. No pure power forwards on the roster. And then the centers, both Jonas Adou and Zvonimir Ivisic. So if you look at these 8 guys, I'd love to know your starting 5 right now if you had to roll it out today. I'm going to give you mine plus the 3 guys that are be on the bench. And then I think that kind of helps give us some insight into what Arkansas still needs to add this offseason. So as you look at it, the question is, you've got the 3 of DJ Wagner, Boogie Fland, and John L. Davis. Who are the 2 that you're starting in the backcourt? Well, I wonder about this. What if you don't have to treat it that way? What if you just go three-guard lineup and start all 3 of them? Start Wagner, Davis, and Boogie. Let them kind of point guard by committee. As of right now, that might be your best option in the backcourt if you're John Calipari. We'll see. That's what I think I would do. And then Adou Thiero and his experience at the 4, and Jonas Adou at the 5. I like that front court a lot of athleticism, and so that's how I would do it. DJ Wagner, John L. Davis, Boogie Fland, Adou Thiero, and Jonas Adou. There is also another world. The other one you could convince me of right now, if not that, is you do choose just 2 of those 3. Let's say DJ Wagner comes off the bench, and you've got John L. Davis and Boogie Fland. Or maybe Fland starts on the bench as he's learning, right? And you got John L. Davis and DJ Wagner starting. And then in that case, I would keep Thiero and Adou at the 4 and 5 and probably go with Karter Knox at the 3. So that's the other wrinkle I might go with. But again, if I'm making a starting lineup right now out of the 8 guys on the roster, I'm going Wagner, Davis, Fland, Thiero, Adou, and then Knox, Billy Richmond, and Zvonimir Ivisic on the bench. So as you look at that, and you even hear me talking about it, you can probably start to identify the needs that Arkansas has. Again, I would use 3 more scholarships if I were Coach Cal. Number 1, I know you got those 3 backcourt guys. I would target a true point guard because you got a lot of talent on this roster. You got a lot of scorers, particularly those 3 backcourt guys. I need somebody to rein it all in. I need somebody to distribute and move the ball around. So I would go after a more pure point guard looking at that. Also, a 4. Right now you've got really Thiero, and I guess you could play one of like Knox or Richmond up to the 4. But I would like to see maybe go after 2 4s, right? Like if any of these guys pull out of the NBA draft, I mean, there's a whole bunch of power forwardy, either 4-3 or 3-4 kind of guys that can play either small forward or power forward. And so, whether it's like an Arthur Kaluma, a JT Toppin. Heck, that could help at the 5 as well. He kind of was an undersized 5 from New Mexico last year. But guys like that, like if they pull out, if I'm Coach Cal, man, that's who I'm targeting. That's who I'm going after to fill out this roster. And then if you don't get, so point guard and 2 4s is what I'd be looking at with those 3 scholarships. Or you could go point guard, 1 4, and then just best player available. Who's a dude we can just go get and add somewhere. So that's where I would look. Now, Coach Cal's former team was in the mix for one of the best remaining scorers in the portal, but Rick Barnes went out, and now Chaz Lanier is headed back to the Volunteer State. We'll talk about that in just a second. Right after I tell you about eBay Motors. Hey, passion and drive, patience, the formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers to roof racks, exhaust kits to LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed or power or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home that huge win. So keep your ride or die alive right now at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. We're staying in the SEC, where earlier in the weekend, Chaz Lanier announced that he was transferring to Tennessee, picking the Vols over both Kentucky and to a lesser extent BYU. Not to diminish BYU, but it really felt like this was basically toss-up between Tennessee and Kentucky. Before we talk either the Tennessee or Kentucky sides of this, for those of you that, a lot of people might not know Chaz Lanier because he's coming from North Florida. So let me just give you a little primer on him, and then I'll look at the vantage point of both Tennessee and Kentucky. Lanier is 6'4", 175. He's from Nashville originally, but he's been playing at North Florida, got 1 year of eligibility left, and basically had a ho-hum first 3 years of college and then blew up this past year at North Florida. First team All-A-Sun. Per synergy, he was the most efficient scorer in the entirety of college basketball last year. Like, let me just give you his points per game as an example. Freshman, 1.7, 4.5 to 4.7. Last year, 19.7. This dude just goes off. Rebounds followed a similar trajectory. 0.7, 2.7, 2.5, 4.8. Just jumping on all of these things. How about three-point shooting? Percentage-wise, 30 to 30.4 to 39.1 to 44% from 3 last year. And oh, by the way, that's as his 3-point attempts per game skyrocketed as well. 1 to 1.8 to 2.2 to 7.5 last year. I could keep going, but you get the picture. Chaz Lanier just went off last year. So this is one thing we do have to be aware of. Is it a matter of opportunity last year finally? Is it an opportunity, is it a matter of he just finally put it all together? Is it a matter of, oh, that was an anomaly and the stats you saw the first 3 years are the reality, and that's what's coming to Knoxville? I tend to believe that it's like opportunity met putting it all together, and you're going to continue to see that in Knoxville this year. This dude, I believe in what he's bringing to the table. So let's talk about the Tennessee side of it. Now, look, I don't want you to go thinking that Lanir is Dalton Knecht. He's a bit of a different player. They don't do it exactly the same, but similar to Knecht, what he can do is infuse Rick Barnes' team. Rick Barnes, by the way, often offensively lacking team with the same offensive firepower that Knecht brought, a swagger, we're going to do this. We're going to be great. And then there's other guys already on the roster that can do that as well. But Lanier just has it at kind of a different threshold for me. And so this addition, I probably would have, and I haven't gone through and ranked my teams yet, but if I had Tennessee, low teens to 20s, this bumps them into the top 15 to me with like comfortably top 15 with a not so crazy path to top 10 status. Like I could see that. So where Tennessee sits right now, they lost 4 guys to the portal, 4 to graduation. Those 4 portalers, you probably remember them, but let me give them to you. Jonas Adou, we just talked about, to Arkansas. Toby Awaka is off to Arizona. DJ Jefferson to Longwood. And Freddie DeLeon, the 5th, to Penn State. So here's what's going to be on the roster. 4 transfers coming in. We've already mentioned Lanir, but also one of my favorite names, Darlin Stone Dubar, comes in from Hofstra. And here's the thing. When we're talking about offense, let's remember last year's Tennessee. The swagger, everything from Dalton Knecht is awesome, but a lot of times what we talked about was it's just Knecht and his teammates standing around watching him do it, and understandably so, because he's a dog, right? But they needed more balance. Well, Dubar, we talked about Lanir being Synergy's most efficient scorer in the nation last year. Dubar was number 4 on that exact same list. And you're like, oh, okay, fine. So what? That doesn't matter. It sounds like this list is populated by a bunch of dudes I've never heard of before. Nah, stop right there. Because aside from Lanir and Dubar, the other 4 players in the top 6 of that list were Antonio Reeves 2nd, Zach Edey 3rd, Mark Sears 5th, and Terrence Shannon Jr. 6th. So it's just, these dudes were dudes last year. You probably just didn't hear of them, but they're right up there with those other 4 names that are household college basketball names. So trust me, Dubar and Lanir are bringing it offensively. Love this for Rick Barnes. The other 2 incoming transfers are Felix Akpara, who is actually from Tennessee as well. I believe he's from Chattanooga area, but has been playing at Ohio State the past couple years. Big man in the paint, basically Jonas Adou replacement to pair up with JP Estrella to own the paint. And then you also, from Charlotte, get a stretch forward, Igor Milicic. I can't remember. And so you've got those 4 guys. You got 1 freshman coming in, Bishop Boswell, who's like a 4-star, 6'4" combo guard kind of player. So he'll be in the backcourt there. So you got those 5 guys, and then 6 players that were on the roster that are still around. I already mentioned Estrella, obviously Zakai Ziegler, Jordan Gainey, Jemai Mashak, and then Cam Carr and Cade Phillips. So those are the 11 guys on the Tennessee roster right now. So Rick Barnes has 2 scholarships to play with if he wants to use them. We'll see what happens. Seems like most coaches are choosing to do 11 or 12. That's where the sweet spot seems to be. But what I love about this for Tennessee, you're going to have the Rick Barnes defense. It's going to be there, but it should be another better year offensively for the Vols. And that's encouraging as you see multiple other teams around the SEC loading. I mean, like Alabama should be very, very solid offensively again this year. I just realized my camera is like twisty. There we go. Now it's like trying to find me all over again. Sorry for those of you listening. I'm just messing with my camera over here. So that's the Tennessee side of it. I love the Lanir addition. We'll watch to see on that. As for the Kentucky side of it, kind of the conversation had been that for the Wildcats, they're looking at either Lanir or Jackson Robinson, but Robinson, the BYU player, is in the transfer portal, but he's also been in the NBA draft process. And as I record late on Sunday evening, we don't yet know his decision for the NBA draft. So that's what we wait on. If he comes back, I fully expect Robinson to go to Kentucky and be that dude, that lead scorer that we've been talking about a couple times lately, that I still think, and I would say Andy still thinks as well, that Mark Pope needs on his team. But Kentucky does have 2 scholarships remaining, so we'll see what they do with those. If they don't or can't land Robinson, or he stays in the draft, I'd be looking at some of those other guys that we just talked about, potentially for Arkansas. Jameer Watkins from Florida State, Kaluma, JT Thomas, anybody like that, I think could be somebody that you go out and get if you're Mark Pope. So there you go. Chaz Lanier headed off to Tennessee. Again, great get for Rick Barnes. Well, as I said earlier, Andy and I usually do our 6-pack on a Monday in segment 3. He's not here. I'm half our co-host. So what does that mean? We're doing a 3-pack. We'll get to that in just a second. As I said, we're mostly staying in the SEC today, and so we start our three-pack with two bits of SEC personnel player news. Will Richard is back for Florida. This is great news for Todd Golden's team. Richard last year, 11.4 points a game. He shot 34.5% from three last year. I'd like to see him get that up over 35 this year, like 37, 38%. I mean, heck, get up over 40. That'd be great. But I would just like to see him more like closer to 40, up above 35 for sure. Richard started 35 games last year. I expect him to do that again. Just plug and play right back in. The questions for Florida, man, waiting on Walter Clayton Jr. news. I really do what you want to do, Walter Clayton. But man, I would love to see you back in Gainesville next year. I just think there are a lot of big things, a lot of good potentials that the Gators could have. Don't forget, we've already talked about John L. Davis transferring to Arkansas from FAU. Elijah Martin is coming to Florida from FAU. I mean, obviously he's in the state of Florida already, but coming to play for the Gators from FAU. Alex Condon's back. Sam Alexis transfers in from Chattanooga. So a lot of good stuff in the works again for Florida. Excited to see. Really interested to see what Todd Golden's team is going to be this year. Bruce Pearl lands another one in the second part of our three-pack. Miles Kelly, Georgia Tech's leading scorer from last year, is headed just a couple hours west across I-20 over to Auburn. 13.9 points a game last year, 5.5 rebounds. This is Auburn's 12th scholarship, so Bruce Pearl's done, right? Not going to go up to 13. I don't expect, and for those covering Auburn, I imagine you're with me there. Kelly is the third transfer this offseason for Auburn. JP Pegues comes in from Furman. He's the one that hit the big shot against Virginia in the NCAA tournament a couple years ago to knock them out. And then also Jaheim Hudson from SMU is coming to Auburn. So another ACC, if you'll allow me that, transfer from SMU to Auburn. Tigers looking really good. I love all the backcourt possibilities that Bruce Pearl is going to have. A lot of flexibility, moving guys around, which is pretty typical for what he's got. And so we'll see how that all comes together. Tahad Pettiford, talking about that backcourt. Tahad Pettiford is a highly talented incoming freshman. Really interested to see what he brings to the table. Lots of possibility there, but obviously Janai Broom is back. He could be the SEC player of the year. Let's not kid ourselves. Love Janai Broom. Denver Jones is back. Chad Baker-Mazar is back. Should be a great year. Should be a great year for Auburn. Last piece of news, and the only really non-SEC news, is that on Friday, Colgate's Braden Smith commits to Gonzaga. Now, you hear me say Braden Smith, and you're like, Colgate, what are you talking about, Shade? You're an idiot. He's Purdue's point guard. This is a different Braden Smith, different spelling. In fact, there's an extra E in this Braden, B-R-A-E. Purdue's Braden Smith is just B-R-A-D-E-N. However, this Braden Smith also is a backcourt, a guard player. So I talked to Andy some over the weekend. It sounds like Braden Smith is going to redshirt because they just got so much already in their backcourt and what all they're doing. But he'll redshirt this year. Probably is the expectation, and then still have 2 years of eligibility left. And so I know what Andy's pretty excited about with this is, look, he's got an opportunity this year to learn under Ryan Nembhard and Nolan Hickman and Caleb Battle, and then potentially be the starting point guard for Gonzaga next year. And so, anytime you can get somebody like that in, get them trained, know the system, know who we are, and then step right in the next year, that's so big time. And I would love that for Mark Few's club. But also, let's not forget what a player like this can do for you in practice, like being able to go up against somebody who's not getting to play in games. So practices basically are your games when you're a redshirt. And so he's going hard and he's making sure these dudes are ready. And so while you won't and I won't see directly how he affects the team on the court this year, we will see indirectly on the court how he affects the team because how they play because of the preparation he's able to get. I love this get for Gonzaga. Big time stuff there. All right, gang, that's it for today's show. Great to be back together on a Monday on Memorial Day. I hope you've had a good, long, extended weekend. I know there have been a lot of storms and bad weather around. I had some close calls at my house in Southwest Missouri on Saturday night. And so my hope and prayer is that you have been safe and had a good holiday weekend. If you haven't subscribed to the show on audio and video, do it. It's super easy to do. We'd love to have you checking out the show all the time. By the way, on YouTube, you can also hit that bell notification and it'll let you know every time an episode's getting ready to premiere or if we go live or anything like that. So make sure to do that. If you haven't subscribed to the Locked On College Basketball Discord, it's so easy to do. There's a link in the show notes. Just click on it. It'll take you there. It's free to join. We're talking college basketball all the time. Yes, even in the off season. All right. It's funny. I just talked about Braden Smith. Let's talk about his backcourt mate. Apologies to the Lawyer family. Let's go Wildcats. And until tomorrow, peace.